And President Joe Biden announcing today a plan to purchase 200 million more doses of the vaccine from Pfizer and Moderna, which could be available by this summer. On Your Side's Kaylee Tracy spoke with a doctor on the First Coast who heads up vaccine trials about his impression of the rollout so far and another major weapon that could lead to more people getting vaccinated even sooner.
I know there's some naysayers out there that are thinking that 2021 could be as bad a year as 2020, but I'm actually a lot more optimistic.
Dr. Michael Koren, who heads up the local Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine trials, hopeful about this year and the vaccine rollout.
It's just a bottleneck. You can imagine you're taking new products and you have to build the machines and the capabilities to just crank out literally hundreds of millions of doses of these things.
As of Tuesday, according to the Florida Department of Health, 1.6 million doses were administered in the state. That number is slightly different from the Centers for Disease Control's 1.5 million doses as of Tuesday in Florida. For perspective, the health department shows almost as many doses have been administered in Florida as positive COVID-19 cases across the state, 1,667,763, according to the Florida DOH Tuesday.
We can do this if we come together, if we listen to the scientists.
President Joe Biden Tuesday promising governors his administration will give estimates of how many doses they'll get at least 3 weeks in advance, a supply that could soon include Johnson & Johnson's vaccine, which only requires 1 dose.
Adding a third manufacturer to the mix would be extremely helpful.
Koren thinks that third manufacturer could be ready by March, allowing, he says, the majority of Floridians to be vaccinated by the middle of the spring.
I'd be actually even a little bit more optimistic than what the Biden administration has said in terms of our ability to get vaccines out there. We're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel and hopefully enjoy a great summer and a much brighter 2021.
Kaylee Tracy, First Coast News, on your side.